Okay, welcome to another Orbiter 2010 video, and in this video we are once again here with the Gmax program. We're going to continue working on our rocket. This time we're going to import it. We're going to export the rocket as a mesh file and take it into Orbiter and have a look at it. But before we do that, I want to spend just a little bit more time tweaking some of the technical aspects of the rocket. So I switched webcam views there so we can see the full screen. We noticed at the end of the last video that if we took a kind of a close-in, zoomed-in look at our fairing, that on this side it appears to be lined up with the cylinder, this, let's call it stage 2, and on the other side it's a bit off. If we click on the move tool and then click on the cylinder, we can see that there's some misalignment with our cylinder. So let's go down here, let's put in for the x coordinate 0.000, and then for the z coordinate the same thing. And that realigned the cylinder a little bit. And let's kind of do the same thing for the other two pieces down here. So move tool, select this piece, and we can see, yeah, it's off a bit, so let's zero that out. And let's zero out the z as well. And the last piece down here will do the same thing. It's a bit misaligned. So we'll zero that out, and we will zero that piece out. Okay, now with that done, since everything just moved a little bit, we'll kind of want to come in here and take a look at our vertex, and hopefully this will resolve it. I don't know if it will, but let's find out. So let's zoom way in, and we'll move that vertex here, this one, so that it's all the way out to the edge of the rocket. Let's zoom in, make sure that we get it all the way in. All the way out to the edge of the rocket. Right there. And let's check that coordinate. That's 26, and the other one was 26 as well. So maybe now, when we lathe it, yeah, that looks better to me. It appears like it's sitting, on both edges. It still looks like it's in just a tiny, tiny amount. So maybe if I zoom in, maybe the vertex is still just a little bit out or off. So select modify, or rather select tool, click that one in the vertex. Perhaps if I move the vertex, so go to move tool up to here, so it's perfectly on that line. Now we'll want to move, and so that's going to be 26.002. And we're going to want to come to that other vertex in here and set it as well, 26.002. Okay, now let's lathe it, and it looks really good, but there's still something there that's giving us a bit of an edge, and maybe that's okay, but at the very least it's better than it was before. So let's look at it in the perspective real quick. If we click on this one, we can spin it around this axis. Let's bring it up a bit. And it looks pretty good to me. It looks like everything, fits together. I think there might be 1 pixel difference here and there. You can kind of see like there's like these fuzzy areas as you spin it around. And I think that'll actually translate into transparency when you're inside of Orbiter. So if you get this weird camera angle, you might actually see clouds through that part of it. And I think we can resolve that, but we'll save that for some other day. Okay, let's do one more thing though before we export. Let's group the whole object as one group. Group OK, and let's go to the hierarchy tool, effect pivot only, center to object, and now select the move tool, and let's just make sure everything is 0. So we got 0x, 0y. It's a little bit off, we can see. and 0Z. So everything is now 0, 0. The pivot point is perfectly in the dead center of the rocket. So now we're going to save it. Yeah, let's just save as 4D. Don't think we need to make a new rocket version yet. And there's some more things that we can do with the tip of the rocket. LaRue told me this. If you zoom in on the tip of the rocket, you'll actually see there's a lot of points basically in what we want to do, because that's where that vertex spun around on the lathe. There's 360 points on that tip, and we want to basically select the tip and weld it so that all those 360 points become one. But I will do that another time because I'm still a little bit uncertain about how to do that. So that's saved. Let's go to the hammer tool, and we're going to do our export, but we have to bring up the helper tool here. So grab the file, and I made a whole video on how to use this, so if you haven't seen that video, check that out. And we're going to export this as Rocket 4D mesh. Okay, save that. And now it's waiting for Gmax, so we'll click on Gmax and click Start Export, and then the space bar, and it dumps that out to the file. And again, I made a whole video explaining how to install Gmax and how to set up that script, so check that out if you don't know what I just did. Okay, let's open a config file here, and we have Rocket 4C as one of the last ones, so I'm gonna just say we'll change that to Rocket 4D, the mesh name. And what we need to do differently from Rocket 3, actually it wasn't Rocket 3, which one was it? Let me open up one of the other rockets real quick, just give me a second. Just bear with me while I open up one of the other rocket configuration files. So orbiter config vessels, my rockets, and probably 4B maybe. Let's open that one. Yeah, no, not 4B. It's going to be 4A. Yeah, that's the one we want. Okay. Let's look at 4A. This was the rocket that had all the touchdown points set to ground level. And again, these touchdown points are still quite confusing to me, so I don't really know what to tell you for setting this up. But I do know, based on help from other people, that this first touchdown point is the nose wheel. And of course, we're using a rocket, so we don't technically have a nose wheel, but even still, there are 3 touchdown points for every vessel, no matter what. The first touchdown point's for the nose wheel, the second touchdown point is for the left main wheel, and the third touchdown point is for the right main wheel. What matters, and this is X, this is Y, this is Z, and this is X, this is Y, this is Z, this is X, this is Y, this is Z. For orbiter's sake, the Z coordinate is the one that apparently it points to the sky. So figuring out how to make the correct touchdown points is still something I don't know how to do. What we need to have as our touchdown points is this. We need 0, 1 for the nose, and then we need the Z coordinate, which is going to be half the size of our rocket. And our rocket's actually 140 meters. So this should be -70. So that's the nose wheel. That's the quote-unquote nose wheel. That's the XYZ of the nose wheel. This is the XYZ of the left wheel. And it needs to be 1, 0, and then half the coordinate of the length of the rocket. And what that's telling it's telling orbiter to make sure that it positions the rocket on the ground instead of having half the rocket sitting inside of the ground. And then the last one is the coordinate of the right wheel. and that's the X, that's the Y, and then we want the Z to be the same as the other one. So that is our coordinate, those are our touchdown points for our new rocket. So let's go ahead and save that. Rocket, when we wanted this to be rocket 4D. Save. Now let's launch orbiter, and let's have a look at our new rocket in orbiter. Go to a quick start scenario, launch it, and we will use the scenario editor to create our rocket inside of orbiter again, and then we'll put it on the launch pad, have a look at it, and we'll see also the difference when we launch it. We'll do a very short launch, not a full launch, but just sort of a partial. So new, just going to call it R. And then again, I made a separate folder for my rockets called My Rockets, 4D, input focus, create. And now it's in orbit, and the camera kind of always starts back here. And this is something else I'll talk about soon too. You can see how our rocket's very angular. We can smooth all that out, and we'll do that another time. Trying to center click to rotate because I've been using Gmax. And this is the other thing with the rocket tip. You can see if you zoom in on the rocket tip, there's basically 360 points right there. We can weld that down so that it's one point, and then you won't have all those weird angles, and then the outer edge will smooth that out as well. But that's more refinement that we'll do another time. So let's go to location. Let's go to Cape Canaveral, and we can see that we have our rocket sitting perfectly on the center of the pad, and it's on the ground. We don't have half the rocket inside the ground and half of the rocket outside of the ground. If we had had the touchdown points left as before, like we have them here, then what you would see is you would see the rocket would be sitting about right there, maybe a little lower than that. So half the rocket would be sitting inside the ground. All right, now let's see what it looks like when we launch, because remember we changed the pivot point. So the default pivot point was, or the one that we had before, the pivot point was at the base, which makes it look weird when you're launching, because it makes the whole rocket look like it's tilting over from the bottom, and that's just not how rockets launch. So we'll do a very short launch, full power, and let's just pitch over, give it some. And now you can see that our rocket's pivoting in the middle more like a real rocket should. And I also added a default flame. I'll show how to do that as well. As far as giving the rocket flame and smoke and texture and everything, that's going to be for another day because I don't know how to do any of that myself. But here we can see the rocket pivoting over like it normally, like you would expect a rocket to pivot. Okay, let's kill rotation. Let's go ahead and exit out of orbiter, and let's talk very briefly about how to add that flame that I had there at the bottom. If you go to your rocket configuration file, you'll have to add this line. It won't be there by default. It's M, that's capital M, then engine, then ref, and then 1. And the 1 is for which engine we're using, and we only have one engine in our rocket. So M engine ref 1, and then equals, this is XYZ, so we want 0, 0, and then negative 70 is from the center of the rocket. And since our rocket is, since the bottom part of our rocket is 70 meters from the center, then that's why we want the negative 70. If we put it in as something like negative 90, and I'll show you what that would look like if we go back to that same scenario. Actually, I don't think I can just launch current state because it won't reread this, but basically, if you had it like that, then you would have your little rocket flame. It would be 20 meters outside of the where the rocket's at, and that wouldn't look right. Okay, so let's actually change that just back to 70. And there's another thing that we can do for our rocket to add a little bit of realism to it, or add a little bit of flavor to it. And that's, instead of having a flat base, let's give it kind of a rocket nozzle shape. And there's a few ways we can do that, but one way is to go to Create and Shapes, Cone. And let's, I don't know which axis to put this on. Let's probably want it on the top axis, which is here, top axis. So we'll start by just putting it down. Then when you drag the mouse cursor, it'll create some kind of shape to it, one way or the other. And let's go like that. Actually, the wrong way. Let's go like that. And you can see down here, we've kind of got a cone shape. And maybe like that. Okay, let's kind of zoom in on that and look at our cone. And that gives us kind of a rocket nozzle type of shape. So let's move it to the rocket bottom. Of course, this will change the dimensions of our rocket a little bit. So that's something to keep in mind. You might want to do this earlier, but maybe if we place it sort of midway in like that, we got to have a rocket nozzle. It's not very, the size isn't quite right, so let's click the scale tool. That's this one up here, and just drag the mouse, and something like that maybe. I don't know if that's too big or not, but then we can just click the move tool and position it where we want it. You know, however you want it positioned, I suppose, is good. And let's talk about the rotation aspect. So click rotate tool, click on the object, and make sure that everything is either 0 or 90 turned to the correct axis. Click on the move tool, click on the object, and just zero out everything so it's perfect. So 0 here. That one won't be 0 because that's the Y coordinate in that direction. But the Z coordinate will also be 0. And let's look at it in perspective. So we come over to perspective view and click over here. We can spin the rocket around. And let's click here, spin it this way, spin it that way, bring it down a little bit and spin it around. And that looks kind of weird to me. More than a little weird. And it doesn't look too bad, but it doesn't really look like a rocket nozzle. So let's change it a little bit. Let's click on the scale tool and scale it down. And let's see with the modification what kind of options we have. Maybe we can change the, make it a little bit more of a dip there. I don't know if you can do that or not. And we might be better off just using a line tool like we did with the fairing and just making our own sort of rocket nozzle. Let's see about radius 1. Let's set it to, I don't know, let's try 2 and see what that looks like. Okay, so that makes it more sort of that way. Okay, let's set it to 0. So that brings it to a perfect cone point. Let's see if there's a way to sort of make it curved. Let's make it a -5 meter rocket nozzle. And I don't really see where you can curve the cone. Maybe just because it's a cone you can't. So one option we would have, I'll show you, we could go to create, select this out, this one, which is shapes, go to line, and you can kind of maybe sketch out your own rocket nozzle. Start at the top, go down, I don't know that that's even remotely close to what a rocket nozzle should look like, but then if we click on modify that line and lathe it, we can kind of decide which way we want it to go. Not instead of Y, we want it to be maybe X. Yeah, we'd probably want X. And then we could click on the line and the vertex and play around with the vertexes a bit. So let's see. Lathe. I'm just trying to decide which vertexes need to move. So this one, click the move tool. Probably need to go the other way with it. So maybe out. And let's lay that just to see what we have. Okay, so that's basically kind of a rocket nozzle type of thing, but it's backwards. That's okay, we can just rotate it around the other way. No, not that axis. Easiest way to rotate is often just to use this tool down here. So we want like -90. No, we want 90. There we go, we got it turned around. So now we can click the vertexes and we can kind of, you know, reshape it a bit so that it's more to our liking. And we can even use some of the, if you click on vertex here, go to the move tool, click on that vertex and right click and go to smooth and change this a little bit. You can kind of give it a curve. So maybe like that. Let's click on that. I guess that's probably not. Let's go back and set that one in corner again. And what we probably would want to do then would be to select the segment. Actually, probably this one would be the curved. So vertex, right click on that one and curve it or smooth it instead of the other one. Maybe, I'm not sure. Okay. And vertex, maybe bend that one a little bit, and maybe that'll give us more of a, you know, something like that. You could take your pick either way, you know, kind of, in my opinion, you kind of get the same look either way. So I'm just going to delete this one, just because sometimes working with these objects can be a bit tougher, but you can see in the perspective view, you know, which rocket nozzle you prefer. So, okay, select object, select that object, delete it. And so now, okay, we've added maybe, you know, maybe 2 or 3 meters to our rocket size. So if we want to be very picky, we could select everything, group it. Actually, before we do that, let's select the nozzle and just make sure that everything is right. So 0, 0, rotation is okay. That's okay. That's all correct. Now group, or rather select everything, group it together as one piece. And we've already got a group, so let's actually ungroup. Now group everything together as one piece. And let's check our pivot point again. Center to object. And it looks to me like everything is still exactly 0. That's fine, but what we don't have taken into account here, let me ungroup, is on our tape measuring tool. If we zoom way in on the object, we see now that the tape stops here. And technically, we would want to, if we wanted everything to be perfectly, you know, perfectly centered, we would want to extend our tape down to there and recenter the rocket by the difference that we have in that rocket nozzle. So to do that, let's select tool. Let's select the tape tool if we can somehow get it. We froze the tape tool, so we'll have to right click it, unfreeze. Let's zoom way in to make sure we get that one selected. I'm not sure how to, like, it would be easier instead of trying to zoom in if I could select the object. There's probably an option where you can just pick, you know, what it is that you're trying to click on. I will find that another day. So for now, selection tool, maybe it's here. Nope. Maybe here. No. Maybe here. No. Okay. So let me select the tape tool, hopefully, and unfreeze it. Actually, I froze it. Okay, now the tape tool is unfrozen, so I could now resize it. So the tape tool selected. Yeah, I got to figure out how to be able to select objects by clicking on them from a list, because sometimes you're going to have things that are overlapping and it's not going to be practical to click on it. And I know that it's there because I think I've seen it. Just look around here for a second. Views, grids. I don't see it right away. I'll find it between videos. Okay, so let's, what do we need to do? We need to actually zoom out, first of all. So I'm going to refreeze the tape tool for now. And let's select all objects, group it together as one. Now let's right-click the object and go to Properties. Now we know that the total length is 143.285. So let's make a note of that. 143.285. So we've added about 3 meters to the height of our rocket. Now select everything, ungroup that group. And it might actually be easier to select it, just make a new tape. Again, I know there's a way to, like, there's a menu. Show tab panel, no. There's a menu option where it'll actually show you what all the what all the pieces are as a menu selection. Okay, file. Selection floater. That seems right, except it's not showing me the tape. Maybe it's because the tape is frozen. So let's do this. Let's select everything and unfreeze all. Aha, there we are. There's the tape. So now we can select it without having to, you know, try to click on an item. So select the tape, move tool. And we want to, let's see, 143 divided by 2. So now it's going to be negative 71.6425. Okay, select the tape. And we've got the move tool selected, and we'll put it in down here as 71.6425. Enter. You can see that move the tape back on that side. Now we want the tape target. So double click that. And the other side should be negative 71.6425. Enter. Now zoom out a little bit. Actually, no. And we need to slide our rocket to the right. So select the whole rocket. Let's freeze the tape tool first. Freeze, and let's see, do we need to freeze the target as well? Yeah, so we froze both parts of the tape tool. Now select the whole rocket. Oops, that's not the whole rocket. That's the whole rocket. Got the move tool selected, and we'll slide it forward. Let's zoom in. And there we go. Now the rocket's recentered. And to make sure that we didn't disturb the up-down part, we should probably go and select each individual component. So selection tool, move tool, click here. And you can see there that Z is just a little bit off because we bumped everything around a little bit. I wonder if you can select the whole group. Just do it like that. Let's find out. Okay, so now if we select individual pieces, okay, yeah, the Z coordinate is now 0 as well. So we've re-centered the rocket now that we've added the nozzle to it. So now our rocket looks even more like a rocket. Okay, so we're at 30 minutes on this video again, so let's go ahead and close it out here. Hopefully you enjoyed watching the creation process and watching me kind of fumble through Gmax and in my attempts to learn more about it. If you did like the video, please hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Links are in the description, and I will see you in the next part.